Hey everyone, Kevin here. Sony yesterday announced the release of 3 new cameras, the Sony a7R Mark II, the Sony RX10 Mark II and the Sony RX100 Mark IV. All of these cameras have a similar design to the previous models, but they do have a lot of new features, so let's quickly run through what those new features are. The Sony a7R II has a back illuminated full frame sensor. The sensor is 42.4 megapixels, it has 5-axis image stabilization, it can reduce vibration by 50% and it has a lifespan of 500,000 shots, can shoot ISO up to 102,400, autofocus has been improved by 40%, processing times has been improved by 3.5 times, it can record in the higher UHD 4K format at 30p, 25p or 24p, 4K video can be recorded using the full frame, and you can shoot at 120 frames per second at 720p. Sony has improved the Sony RX10's 1-inch 20 megapixel sensor. It now has advanced signal processing and an attached DRAM memory chip. The lens is 24 to 200mm at f2.8. It has high image shooting at 14 frames per second, an anti-distortion shutter, an upgraded autofocus system, and it can do slow motion at up to 960 frames per second. That is insane. It can record 4K QFHD, which is 3840 by 2160 pixels. 4K is limited to 29 minutes. The fourth version of the Sony RX100 series has a lot of the same features as the second version of the Sony RX10. One key difference is the lens. The lens is 24 to 70mm at f1.8 to f2.8. The other difference is that this camera can only shoot 4K video up to 5 minutes. So these 3 cameras were only announced yesterday, so there's no reviews out yet. We should see some reviews coming out over the next few weeks, but I imagine the reviews are going to be extremely positive. Sony hasn't really messed about with the design here. They've just built upon an existing design which was very popular and just upgraded the processor, added some extra features. It's a winning formula, so I don't think you've got to worry about the cameras being poor in that respect. The one thing I did notice was that the a7R Mark II can't record 4K at 50 or 60p. I realise this is something that other people aren't looking for, but I did notice that there's a lot of camcorders out in the market just now that can do that, so I thought Sony would try and get ahead of the field a little bit and try and introduce that to their top of the line cameras, but they haven't done that. I don't think it'll be a deal breaker though. The Sony RX10 Mark II looks fantastic. I was a really big fan of the RX10 and I was very close to buying it, but the one thing that put me off was it didn't have 4K, and the new version does have 4K, so it will be at the top of my shopping list when I look for a new camera at the end of the year. But obviously there's 6 months or 9 months before then, and there's going to be a lot more cameras out in the market then, so whether I do buy it or not, that's still to be decided. I must admit though, the RX100, I'm a little bit disappointed. I mean, the RX100 packs so many features into such a small camera. It's amazing when you consider it has the same sensor as the Sony RX10. But I would primarily be using the camera for video, like 99.9% of the time be using it for video. And this 4K 5-minute restriction is too much for me. I mean, the Panasonic LX100 and the Samsung NX500 both have 15-minute limit recording times, and I can handle 15 minutes. I could handle a 15-minute restriction, but 5 minutes, most of the clips I record are 5 or 10 or 15 minutes long, and it means that there's going to be times where I'd have to record a clip and then stop it and then record again. I'm not going to capture everything that I want, and I'm going to have to stop and start and then piece all the clips together. And I think they've really missed out here, because within the next 6 months or a year, there's going to be a lot of cameras coming out by other companies. Perhaps Canon's going to release a successor to the G7X, or perhaps we're going to see another one being released by another company, Samsung or something like that, but they're going to release a camera as small as the RX100 that offers 4K but without the time restriction. Time will tell, but I do think it's really put me off from getting the RX100 now. But there is one good thing about all these cameras being released, and it's quite an obvious one. Whenever new cameras are being released, whenever they're being announced, and shortly before they're actually released, the previous models drop in price quite a bit. So I would maybe wait another month or so. The RX10 and RX100 are out in July, and the a7R Mark II is out in August. So if you can wait just about that time, maybe a week or so, or even a month before, you should see prices dropping for the original a7R, the original RX10, and the RX100 Mark I, 2 and 3. And so you're going to see a lot of great bargains. So if you don't need 4K just now, I would really pay close attention to those 3 previous models and look at the prices, because you should see some fantastic bargains coming up. You really will. I'll put some information about these 3 new cameras down below. I'll link to the press release, etc. And if you get any questions, please do ask a question below in the comment area. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, if you have, please do consider liking or subscribing. But please do leave a comment below, because I'd love to hear what you think of these new cameras. Is the 4K restriction in the RX100 Mark IV an issue for you? Let me know below. Thanks guys, till next time, cheers.